go off video.
Okay, no worries at all. I mean, technical issues always happen in the world of, remote and virtual, so no worries about that at all. All
Awesome.
right. So if you could just introduce yourself again and include your title and office.
Yeah. So I am Ronnie Penoi. I use the she, her series. I am Laguna Pueblo and Cherokee, and I am the director of artistic programming for ArtsEmerson, as well as the interim executive director for the Office of the Arts and ArtsEmerson. Word salad.
Yes, kudos for like having that down, like memorizing all those words in that order.
Ryan.
Great. So
Yeah.
could you give a brief overview of In the Same Tongue? And can you share how this production aligns with the mission and goals of Arts Emerson?
Absolutely. So, In the Same Tongue is a stunning work of what I will call dance theater, that is helmed by living legend Dianne McIntyre, incredible choreographer, artist, human being, and really generated um, with the collaborative talents of Ntozake Shange, and her, incredible body of work, as well as Deidre Murray, who is an experimental jazz musician. So I love that the spirit of the piece is very much about the ways in which music, dance, text are all speaking the same language. They're all in the same tongue. Uh, and I know for many folks that think about dance, it's like, oh, it's esoteric. Is it kind of abstract? What I what so resonated with me about this piece is the way in which, when watching it, you can feel the invitation in your own body to move, and the ways in which the body is a natural um, form of storytelling for everyone, and that goes beyond the professional dancer to us as human beings. Like we feel so much in our bodies, and it can express so much in our bodies. And uh, I really love the way that Diane bridges both professional dancers and musicians as well as local artists in the piece. So it gives this kind of layered approach. So I'll say that in terms of more specific content, there is a bit of a uh, connection across time energy of both the energy of Harlem in the kind of 20s and 30s, but then also in the 60s and 70s and the Black Arts movement that she was so much a part of. So while it is not overtly a story about one particular moment in time, it's very legible in terms of what emotionally and uh, experience wise this group of artists is going through at any one moment. It just is, it's incredibly inviting. And in terms of our mission at Arts Emerson, you know, our favorite tagline is the art is the prompt and the conversation is the point. So we do work that is incredible, and the reason that we um do it is really to prompt civic transformation, connecting across difference and conversation. So one of our biggest commitments is to work that celebrates the African diasporic experience here in the United States. Sometimes that shows up in our international work from around the world, and sometimes it's very obvious that the focus needs to be on uh sharing the work of someone, like Miss McIntyre, who has uh I don't believe, to my knowledge, has ever been presented in the city of Boston. And she is, I say living legend not lightly, in that this is going to be the 50th year that she is creating work, which is just, I can hardly wrap my hardly wrap my head around. But she has been such a phenomenal artist and choreographer in her own right, and mentor and teacher. Her ability and her to connect with individuals, whether in the dance space or in conversation, is really it's pretty unparalleled. I mean, I got to spend some time with her at an event we had at Arts Emerson this spring, and her sense of curiosity and inquiry around people, whoever they are, whatever their come from is, and being fully present for their experience, it's not something you see a lot of these days, when a lot of people have some walls up about their own lives, their own experiences, and their ability to really extend themselves. And it's really, I mean, it's really courageous to emotionally courageous to be in her presence and hear the way that she thinks about the work and thinks about people. She's still so deeply, you can tell, loves and cares about getting to know new uh people. So this piece I actually first this work of hers, I heard about when I was working at Octopus Theatricals, independent producing company, before I came here. And so when I started as director of artistic programming, I knew I wanted to offer a commission for the piece. So we were early commissioners. And then when the piece was at the Apollo, some members of our staff went to see it, and it was very clear that this was ours to do. So I know that dance in the city of Boston, some folks do a little bit of it, but it's I think about Jeremy Alliger, I think about Dance Umbrella, I think about the uh as someone who was very serious about dance earlier in my life, uh, it's such a special and dearly held art form for so many, but it's a really tricky thing in 2024 to bring folks who don't have that past experience with dance in. So I'm really passionate around our work in connecting across difference to expand to thinking about, okay, especially when um there's so much here that is celebrating I mean Black legendary artists and work, uh that this is exactly the way that we should be thinking about having some of these critical conversations around race and history and just joy. So I mean, the commitment to African diasporic work, and also um mixed media, contemporary music, theater, all of which are, three of our seven kind of tent poles. This was very obvious that this felt like ours to do. So it's kind of a long answer, but there you go.
Very, very thorough, very detailed. I appreciate that so much. And it feels like, just listening to you speak about that, that it's almost like you're introducing Boston to Miss McIntyre's work and this incredible production as well. Doing a bit of my own research, just seeing, bits of her speaking and seeing some clips from the production. I'm incredibly interested in seeing this, and I think it'll be an incredible experience for everyone who does see it as well. I do have a question, relating to some of the themes of the work, some of the messages that, Dianne McIntyre is trying to convey through this production. Why do you think these are important for today's audience? And even by extension, if you'd like to think about, for Boston's, arts community and community of people who might have an interest in the arts?
Yeah. Well, I want to say that Diane's work is one where it's not prescriptive, that you're going to come in and go, I'm going to walk away with this, right? So I'll share for me what I take away from the work and why it feels meaningful to bring to Boston. But I think something that is so beautiful about the work is that different folks will come to it and take different pieces away from it that'll, I imagine, will have different resonance. It has that kind of universal out of the specific component to it. Uh, but for me, in Boston as a city, even as it is a it has no one majority, in terms of racial makeup in particular. Uh, it still feels like a very white dominant culture, especially in dance, especially in um, I would say it's changing, but I still think that that's true of downtown, of the art space. It still feels like that's the dominant culture. So when we think about history, when we think about Black history, it can be easy to kind of go, okay, that's that over there, and it's in the history books, and it's not alive. And I think there's something about um, what Miss McIntyre is bringing forward, with not only her key role in that, and you feel it in the jazz, you feel it in the movement, the kind of specific place and time. I mean, heck, you kind of feel it in the costumes of the 60s and 70s. Uh, the real sense of salon, the sense that the arts and the most rich intellectual thinking was all part of the same universe. We were all speaking to each other, just using different ways of getting at the same thing, whether it was art, whether it was science, whether it was um, writing. Uh, and all of that is to say, it is still alive now, and the importance of, you know, the past is present, and especially in a city like Boston where we love the joke I always like to make is the we are city of cosplay and muskets. We love our founding fathers, we love our, you know, Revolutionary War history, and it can still be a very white history. And again, that's changing. I don't want to like erase the really meaningful work that I see that has been happening over time to shift that. But especially being Indigenous myself, it's not hard to see that Black history, Indigenous history is not yet American history as understood in the city of Boston fully. So when we're thinking about this moment where we are in the future, across racial lines, across you know, we still as a American society, I think, struggle with intergenerational leadership and carrying our ancestors' wisdom forward as a society. I know in certain cultures that's much more present than in others. So this just really feels like a sense to bring the richness of uh the past through um really led by this incredible woman who's still very much with us and has so much to offer, to offer us a portal forward through how we could imagine a different kind of future. I mean, I walk out of the piece with such a sense of liveness. You know, I feel embodied. And so many of us are in our heads, we're in our stresses and in our emotions. Um, it just feels incredibly nourishing and a kind of a powerful, kind of empowered challenge to approach the future differently.
Right. And to look at the past differently, right? As well as like as you're saying, which is I think an incredible opportunity to awaken people to realize what you're talking about and the way that history still looks so segregated. And to look at someone like Dianne McIntyre, who can really show us a new way to think about how we combine our narratives and our stories.
Exactly. And I'll also offer too that for um, you know, our various Black audiences that we're in relationship with that we hope to grow, this is also just a different kind of window into the kind of legacy and the um kind of highly held almost mythologically, you know, embraced at times notion of Harlem as this epicenter of Black culture. And it really is held in a more specific and it's a different window into it in a way that feels less the stuff of stories, but more the stuff of how are we in it now? You know, how are we holding it now?
Right, right. Amazing. Thank you for that very elaborate answer. I really appreciated the depth.
I can't do short, sorry.
It's wonderful. It's very rich. So another question that I have for you is how does In the Same Tongue stand out from other productions that Arts Emerson has commissioned?
Oh boy. Well, for one thing, it's very dance forward. So it is a aesthetic I mean, as with all of our works, we try not to we kind of want to live in the gaps, as we like to say. So if there are things that are not being seen, done, engaged with in the city of Boston, we try to um live in that space of gap. As long as it has a theatrical quality at its center, we're pretty open to uh the interdisciplinary, the kind of stretch of form and things like that. Commissions, often we're sometimes commissioning things that don't necessarily make it to the stage, because we really believe that as a um as an arts field, both in the US and internationally, we all need to be doing more than the sum of our parts. So that means sometimes supporting something that needs to be in the world, even if it doesn't make specific sense for it to be at our theater. Um, but one of the things that made it clear to me that this was both something that was a commission and something that I so hoped, I'm delighted that it has made it to our stage, um, is it's really entering all of the conversations that I previously mentioned in a unique way that I haven't seen before. Theater is historically very text-based, can often be in American context very narrative-based. This has a real theatricality to it, but it is poetic. It is not narrative in that way. And it it asks a different kind of thing of the audience. So there's I will say that on the theatrical spectrum, it's leaning more into dance than some of the other work we've commissioned. But I think that's part of the kind of universe of things that need to be seen in Boston. And so we're kind of stepping into support. And there's amazing colleagues that we have in celebrity series, in the ICA, and of course in our, world-class dance companies that bring a lot of wonderful um choreographic work to the fore. And there's still so much, there's so much more work, and I think benefit from experiencing the work than there are folks that are currently doing it. So delighted to be additive to the space that's already really loving and sharing dance.
Amazing. Yes, I mean, as a dancer, very much looking forward to
Figured.
that aspect and, really trying to digest and internalize, what the movement is speaking. Oftentimes it's one thing to take and interpret text or song, anything that's lyrical and has like, words, English words, if we all speak English, right? But to look at movement, not everyone has the same lexicon there, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I also think too the way in which uh Diane's work is in relationship to jazz. I mean, it's very different than the what I think a lot of folks feel. So the broader population that is interested in dance, I think they often think about music and dance in the realm of like Twyla Tharp and moving out, where it's like you have this score like a Billy Joel, or even
right.
in a lot of dance spaces, you have an anchor of something that feels known, or that feels uh I don't know, like you're building dance off of this other thing. Whereas this is a real kind of interplay and conversation and expressing the same thing but through two different mediums. That doesn't feel like dance is responding to or in service to the music, but it is emerging, and with the poetry and with the language as well. It's all kind of, growing. I can't help but like move and try to communicate it, but it feels like it's being braided together, right? Or that it's kind of evolving together rather
Right.
than one thing is kind of being set against this other thing. So just it kind of contributes to that sense of liveness. You never know, like when I'm watching the piece, I don't have a sense of when a movement starts, where it's going to land based on what I'm hearing in the music. Which is exciting as someone who we have a lot of modes in the theater where, I don't know why this is the thing that's popping up, but like Chekhov's gun, you see something introduced, later it's going to be used. That's not to say that everything is expected or formulaic, but I think that the notion of something unexpected, or what is the way in which we're going to enter this kind of interplay of art forms is not obvious, and it just feels like you're in this place of discovery, as you watch the piece.
Earlier you spoke about, everyone will take away something personal and perhaps different for themselves from this production. I have a question for you out of curiosity. What most strongly resonated with you from this production?
Yeah. I think for me it was the give and take. Uh there's a moment that sticks with me of the dance ensemble sitting around and listening to the jazz musicians on stage, and the back and forth between them, and particularly in that moment, uh it feels like it has a kind of a kinship that I often don't feel like in the kind of sharp polished, um well, I will edit that to say, because it's not like Miss McIntyre's work is not sharp and polished, because it is. Um, but something that is feels like it's I'm trying to make sure I have the right language. It still it feels, because of the way that it has a give and take and how it is built, that it has like almost an improvisatory quality to it, even though it is set. You can see the very real, I'm honoring and giving attention and kind of vibing with what you're giving me here. You are kind of following me here. And that sense of trust and relationship, um, and feeling that in the artistry, especially personally as someone who um is thinking a lot about what actually are the ways in which we build connection. I mean, there's something to being in your 30s. They say that it's hard to make friends in your 30s, right? So uh I'm new to Boston-ish. I've been here 3 years, still finding my people, so to speak. So in so many ways, anytime I see something that feels like such a beautiful and living expression of give and take, I think just kind of personally sits with me a little bit more. And I kind of pick up on it a bit more.
It's an amazing observation, and I'll definitely be looking out for that too. Looking forward to that part of it.
I'm so
Thanks.
excited you're going to see it. Do you know which night you're coming? Thursday?
Thursday.
Okay,
Thursday. Yeah,
good.
that's the opening one, right?
Yeah. So we should have a little kind of toast afterwards. So
Nice.
please find me if I don't immediately see you.
Okay. I'll definitely look for you. Yes. So that pretty much wraps up most of my questions here. I just want to ask a quick follow-up about how people can stay connected with Arts Emerson and stay up to date for this and future productions.
Yeah. So kind of you. We have our handy dandy website, artsemerson.org, to stay tuned. We have Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff to see what we're doing. And just to say, I'm always very eager and open to conversation and to hearing from folks about the work, um, and finding other ways for folks to plug in. We have a few things I'll say. We have a play reading book club program that is completely free and open to the public. That is, we're not doing one for this particular piece, but the piece following Diane's work, on the eve of abolition, we have one, and it's a way to get a deeper dive, and it's also a chance to connect even more deeply with other community members, which is so in the spirit of what we're trying to do. Because while we love showing incredible art, we're really looking to find places where people can connect. So basically website, Instagram, and if and when you come to the theater, find me, find one of my colleagues, and we'd love to get a coffee and chat. Like, we're very much in the human to human business over here.
Absolutely. You have to keep those connections with the people in the community.
That's the goal. That's the hope.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Ronnie. I really appreciated this conversation,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
you're a really brilliant